Hey guys, D.Bowie here, and this is things I learned with N.Oa1l's Bristleback. Since 7.0.0, a lot of people are wondering how to deal with Ember Spirit mid. The hero has been a dominant force, and even heroes like Invoker, that were considered a counter to the hero, appear to be struggling a little bit against him. So yeah, Bristleback is great against him in lane, especially in the early levels. He deals a tons of physical damage, while Ember has very low armor. On top of that, he can deal damage from relative distance, completely zoning Ember in the first wave of creeps. Since he dominates the first wave so much, he does not lose any last hits, guaranteeing him bottle to keep the pressure up on Ember, as well as a kill thanks to Treant rotating in that area.
Bathed in searing heat. First blood.
Pay attention how liberal he is with his mana. He wants to completely zone Ember regardless of him getting a kill or not. Since he already has control of the lane, every second that he delays Ember's bottle or level 6 is already a victory, while he gets less hits uncontested. A lot of Bristlebacks dislike learning points in Goo early on because they usually don't have enough mana to manage spamming the 2 skills in teamfights. That's not the case for mid Bristleback, with Magic Stick and Bottle. Also, at level 6 it means he has a way bigger burst in MS and attack speed when he goes for a kill. I love his items. A lot of Bristlebacks that have relatively easy lanes try to rush big items like Vanguard or I don't know Hood, but everything he needs is mana sustain to always take Ember away from the lane and enough resistance to repel or survive ganks, and that's why Magic Wand and Raindrops come into play. The fact he has so much mana regen allows N.Oa1l to spam his second skill from the mid lane to the bottom lane to fight the push. As he chases, we see the enemy team abusing one of the main weaknesses of Bristleback, his lack of stuns. Silencer runs away, but pay attention how N.Oa1l keeps chasing and pops the regen rune in the fog. That guarantees he regains his mana back to full, and again, another hero TP. Since Earth Spirit was apparently high, he has the chance to kill him. During this dive alone, we already see Raindrops paying off. He was able to block 220 magic damage from Earth Spirit, and without that he would be dead. Not only he doesn't die, he actually gets 2 kills, Terror TP to this bottom tower. The way he uses his bottle is the key here. Pay attention how during this entire chase he did not try to pop one charge of the bottle until he knew he was in the fog. And since Terrorblade's illusions end up blocking him, he turns certain death in a double kill, mainly because of itemization and using his bottle charges at the right time. Even though Bristleback is a simple hero, you need to make good decisions to make him work. In this game he is against a pretty hard counter, Silencer. During this game, until he finds an item to deal with Curse, he always respects that skill. See how he leaves the push as soon as he's affected by Curse? Another point I want to highlight is his item build. As I talked in the beginning, people are obsessed in rushing Vanguard and pretty much every defensive item in the game on him because they feel like the defensive aspect of his passive works very well with those items. When the entire enemy team goes on you, that can be true, but you need to understand 2 things. The first one is that builds like this are very one-dimensional. If the enemy team wants to farm or if you want to farm, you're getting very little out of your item build, and I would only recommend something like this if you want to go very early for a push. In this case, going threads that synergizes amazingly well with him because of thread switching is the best course of action in my opinion. And we will talk a little bit about thread switching because he doesn't do a lot of it during the teamfights and there's a reason for that, but just wait a little bit. This is something N.Oa1l abuses during the entire game. As N.Oa1l goes from the base to the lane, pay attention how he spams quills to walk faster from one point to another. That's something not so common since usually Bristleback struggles with mana, but since he was mid, he actually has a lot of regen, and now we have the shrines as well. So maybe Bristleback mid, new meta? I don't know. Even though during this video I was shitting on rushing Vanguard and defensive items, you can't deny that Crimson Guard is very good this game. They are against Terrorblade after all. So he already kills the item next, and again we see how TP counters Bristleback easily, especially in the early to mid game, that he doesn't attack too much to kill the enemies before they are able to complete the TP. Anyways, at least they trade tier 1 towers. One thing that can be confusing to you is him going for the extra strength talent instead of more mana regen. After all, I said that mana regen is one of the weaknesses that you need to deal with when playing him. But he already has tons of ways to deal with that. He usually brings Clarius to him, Bottle, wand, and raindrops. He is also built in Echo Saber, and with the burst damage as well as the mana regen from it, he will be fine. That extra strength not only helps him pop more quills during the fight, since he has more HP, but it's also right-click damage that scales extremely well with his passive as well as Echo Saber. This clip showcases two things. The first one is him using his invisible rune only at nighttime, making it harder for any hero or ward detect him as he infiltrates the enemy side of the map. But more important than that, pay attention how he keeps respecting Silencer. Yeah, maybe he can get that kill if he dive balls deep against him, but as I already mentioned, it's nighttime and the amount of damage he will take spamming those kills against Curse is huge, especially if Silencer is maxing the skill. I do mention from time to time about the importance of not only checking the minimap, but hovering your entire camera, and in a time frame of 15 seconds, N0tail identifies 2 enemy wards. By doing that and communicating it for your team, you can get a clear edge on games. When Terrorblade attacks Sky from the fog there, it's clear they have a high ground ward, N0tail even pings it. And with the vision he has from Earth Spirit, it's also clear the only thing he could be doing there is placing another ward. This clip shows two important things to consider when playing Bristleback. The first one is how to approach fights with the hero. A lot of people feel like you gotta go crazy and just pray you have enough farm and luck to power through the enemy team. And that's the exact opposite of what N0tail does. When 2 of his allies are dead and 3 heroes are attacking him, he doesn't pop the wand and just hopes he can kill everyone. Instead, he keeps his ult charges up by spamming quills and goo until the enemies separate a little bit. The approach here is quite the opposite of what low-level players have with the hero, and it reminds me of Killwall's way of playing PA. Goo is a long-range skill that slows enemies, and even though Bristleback doesn't have a blink like PA, he has the means to gap close and run away because of the move speed he gets from his passive. When he's able to isolate the enemy heroes, his Goo guarantees his team can gap close on that particular hero and they kill them one by one thanks to his superior move speed and chasing potential. The second point I want to highlight is him not thread switching at all during the fight. I am a Bristleback player myself, and it's ridiculously hard to thread switch to each instance of quills and Goo, since the cooldown of the skills are so low. In my opinion, the amount of brain power you will lose doing that is not worth the mana efficiency, especially because he went full mana for that fight. But to be honest, at least try to do it when you're popping your wand, unlike this noob. I feel like most people would want to rush Crimson Guard after finishing Vanguard, and at least to me this is a common mistake. A lot of people have this idea of Bristol as a tank, but if you read his ult and if you take into account the minus armor from his Goo, he is pretty much a hero with steroids. Yeah, he has the tank aspect because of his third skill, but with this hero you need to balance damage dealing items as well as tankiness, and that's pretty much why he goes for Echo Saber. I mean, the item is great on any melee strength right clicker, and the mana regen is just the cherry on top. In this next tower defense we see him going for the same pattern of fight. He is neither a tanker or a right clicker, at least not completely. His job is maintaining his charge up to keep slowing and throwing quills at people until an enemy is bad positioned, and then his team can focus it. He's not able to rush in and right click Terrorblade because his tankiness is deceiving because of his passive. What he wants most of the time is tackle each enemy at a time, and to do that he needs to control them with Goo until his team can join him. Now that he's stronger, he doesn't need to respect Silencer's curse so much, but you can see that on the back of his mind he was very aware of how many skills he spammed. Thankfully he had a TP ready, and in the end leaves the fight at the perfect time. When he finds Earth Spirit stealing their bounty rune, you can clearly see how much right click he deals. So this is the reason you shouldn't go only defensive items on him, or else you're wasting a ton of potential. But you have to remember that if you only go damage items, you will die too fast in fights, and that's why Bristlebacks go items like Vanguard as well. Since we're talking about items, I love the Lotus Orb pickup. A lot of cores don't like to make the item since they feel like this is a support item, but the item gives everything N0tail would wish for. A little bit of damage, Bristleback doesn't have a lot of armor, mana regen, mana, and a very easy way to purge the curse, silences, searing chains. BKB for instance is a great item, but has a huge cooldown that depends on your team engaging when you want. I'm also a big fan of him bringing and using clarities at this stage of the game. Bristol depends a lot on mana to be relevant in fights, and this is something a lot of people forget to do. They just walk back to base, and since Bristleback is a very slow hero, especially when you don't have mana, you lose a lot of time, and you shouldn't be losing time with this hero. With the addition of clarity, he can keep his mana levels up and be able to join fights when needed without hindering his farm. Well, this wraps up for today. If you enjoyed this video, please guys give it a thumbs up. If you want to see the extended version of this video, please check the link in the description, and I can't overstate how this video wouldn't ever be possible without the huge help from the Pugna guys, so please show them some love. Pugna is a platform where you can learn from people like Chessie, Fogged, Slasher, Monib, and get better at the game. They have now great content on 7.0.0, and if you want to raise your MMR, it's a great time. Just figure out the patch faster than others and get those easy wins. One thing you can do in a game like this is ask your offlaner to be as dumb as possible and trade against the enemy team so that both of you can use this shrine. But if he does not speak your language, or if you're an atheist, it's okay to pop the shrine alone. You should strive to gather all creeps at once so that you deal as much AoE damage as possible with Remnant and your passive. After you take the large camp, you will definitely have money for bottle, and most of